say to each of you that it is really wonderful to be back at Lehman College, albeit virtually. I very much feel a physical presence there with you. I've been on your campus a handful of times. Every time Michael Sullivan and others have greeted me with open arms, and I've always felt very welcome there. I'm so proud of the institution that you are and the community that you continue to cultivate there. And again, thank you for having me. I am especially grateful to be a part of this distinguished speaker series. I'm feeling a lot of pressure to be distinguished this evening, so I'll work hard at that. That pressure is only amplified by the fact that my former doctoral advisee, now a very famous professor, Stephen John Quay, had the enormous privilege of speaking in the same series earlier this spring. Stephen sent me a text message and told me that he set an incredibly high bar that will be nearly impossible for me to meet. So I'm going to do the best I can. I don't think of Stephen as a kid, not at all. But, kind of sort of like how a parent wants their children to grow up to be better than them. Those are the same aspirations that I have for my doctoral advisees. So I won't feel so badly if I don't, cross quite the bar that Professor Quay set in his lecture. Let me do one last thing before we get started here. Let me indeed acknowledge and appreciate Dr. Wright, Vice President Wright, my fraternity brother, Wright. It is really, really wonderful that you are at Lehman College. As you know, I'm a long time staunch supporter of all things CUNY. And it's been really great to engage with you, collaborate with you, and, partner over so many years, at various junctures in our time together across the CUNY system. Lehman College, for sure, is incredibly lucky to have you there. And I feel extraordinarily blessed to share this virtual space with you. It's really, really great to see you. All right, everybody, what will we do for the next 40-ish minutes? We should do the thing that lots of people are doing right now. We should talk about becoming anti-racist. That is the thing that is, very trendy. I, for sure, in classic Shaun Harper fashion, I will critique the trendiness of becoming anti-racist in a bit. But let me do a little bit of context setting. I'm going to go to my place of comfort. My comfortable place is to always hide out behind my data, just to establish my academic credibility here. I don't want folks thinking that, oh, this is just this outrageous Californian with, all of these opinions. Let me, ground the perspectives that I'm going to share with you in research that I've conducted on race, racism, racial equity, and indeed on campus racial climates over the entirety of my career. Let me start here by saying that I am concluding now my 17th year as a faculty, actually my 18th year as a faculty member. For 17 of those 18 years, I've been engaged in the qualitative study of campus racial climates at colleges and universities in every geographic region across the US, including several institutions in New York City and across New York State. For many years, when it was just me as, just a lone assistant professor and early career academician, I was doing those climate studies alone. So I'd go and spend about a week on a campus. But then a decade ago, I founded the Penn Race and Equity Center. It was a center at the University of Pennsylvania where I was a professor at the time. The qualitative campus climate assessments became a flagship signature activity of the center at Penn. 4 years ago, I moved that center with me when I joined the faculty here at the University of Southern California, and we continue to do qualitative campus climate work. I often say of our qualitative climate studies that they've literally taken us from Princeton University to Portland Community College and several dozen institutions in between in terms of geography, size, type, mission, and so on. Again, that work typically entails spending about 4 days on a campus conducting racially homogeneous focus group interviews with people of color and their white counterparts. Sometimes college presidents and vice presidents and provosts would call us to assess the campus racial climate for students. Other times, they call us to assess the climate for faculty and staff. Very rarely have we foolishly undertaken, students, faculty, and staff in one climate assessment. That's too much. It doesn't work well. But the point here, right, is that every time that we've done this work qualitatively, we've always had several focus group interviews with just Black people, several more with just Latinx persons, several more with Indigenous and Native American persons, Asian American and Pacific Islander persons, multiracial persons, so on and so forth. But always, we've included white people in our campus racial climate assessments because they too are indeed part of the campus racial climate. Over the years, we have conducted on-campus, in-person interviews with more than 10,000 students face-to-face on college and university campuses. And over the years, we have conducted face-to-face interviews with more than 2,000 faculty members, staff members, and administrators at higher ed institutions. So, really, when I talk with you during this time together today about becoming anti-racist, I really am bringing with me the perspectives of more than 12,000 people whom we've interviewed face-to-face. Now, as you might imagine, given the duration of the time at which I've been engaged in these qualitative studies and the fact that they became such a focal flagship activity of the Penn Center and of the USC Center, as you might imagine, there was a serious uptick in the demand for our qualitative climate studies, really from 2015 onward. On the eve of the 2016 presidential election, and certainly throughout the 4 years of the Trump administration, there was just a really urgent, at times very desperate demand for our qualitative climate studies because in large part, the racial problems of our larger democracy very much were spilling over onto college and university campuses and very much poisoning and contaminating the racial climate. Let me put it differently. As the nation was struggling with racial division, commingled with some political division for sure, but that political division was often racialized, inescapably racialized. As that was happening in our broader society, it was also happening on our campuses. So time after time after time from 2015 onward, several very distressed chancellors, college presidents, vice presidents, and provosts were ringing the phone off the hook or blowing up our email at the center asking, how fast can you come here to do one of those things that you become very famous for, those qualitative climate studies? We want to know what the climate is on our campus and we want to do something about the racial climate issues. The point here is that the demand during those 5 years from 2015 onward, really became just uncontrollable. It became untenable, as a matter of fact, for us to be at all of the places that so urgently and so desperately needed us at that time. So our mission here at the USC Race and Equity Center is to disrupt racism in all its forms. We always aim to be helpful to institutions. We wanted to be helpful to the nation as it was crying out for our help. But there are only 23 of us who work here. We couldn't be at all the places. So what we did, we took at that time what was 15 years of qualitative climate data. We used it to inform the design of what ultimately became a tool that allows us to be so much more helpful to so many more institutions. Let me introduce you to that tool at this time.